Hey guys, Finn here. So this episode is actually going to be in two parts. I wasn't expecting it to be this long, but we have part one, which is about an hour and 45 minutes, and then a part two, which is about another hour long. That's what happens when you try to tackle such a broad subject such as horror music. So I hope you guys still enjoy this episode, or part two, I should say, is going to be uploaded tomorrow. So that'll be on Friday, February 16th, 2024. I hope you guys enjoy, and I hope you learn something from this very long, rambly two-part episode. Thank you.
Hello and welcome to the Fox and Fish podcast, your home for everything spooky, creepy, and horrifying. I'm Kirrianna the Fox.
And my name is Phinn the Fish.
And you... this little fish right here.
Yeah, this is a long, this is a lot.
To say the least. Tell them how many pages of research you have open on your laptop currently right now as we speak.
My Google Docs is open right now, and there is 23 pages, technically.
23 pages, technically.
Because the last page is all sources, and that's the 24th page.
I would say our average before this is like, what, 7?
7 to 10, maybe? With 10 being on the higher end.
Yeah. I think my one for Skinwalkers was like maybe 8.
8 or 9, yeah.
8 or 9?
Yeah.
You think we're gonna fit this into one episode?
I think we will. So, if you didn't read the title, I guess, we're talking about horror and music, and specifically like horror music. So spooky music. We're gonna talk a little bit about what makes music scary. We're gonna talk a little bit about this top 10 list that I found for the top 10 like best horror soundtracks of all time. And then we're going to talk about a couple of like secular genres. So like regular genres that are used, like that are meant to be sold to, you know, the public for consumer based, you know, listening and shit, that just have spooky themes to them. So There's a couple of genres that actually have horror in the name and are like based on horror basically. Mm-hmm. And then we just have a list of genres that are just spooky. No, by no means an exhaustive list. Like I said, there's 23 pages here. And at the end, there's just kind of a rapid fire list of some genres that I know about that are considered horror. I'm sure there are other genres that could be considered spooky horror music that I just didn't get to because there's already a lot here.
Yeah. Well, you set out to make a podcast episode about something as broad as horror music. I mean...
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess we should just jump into this before we have like a 20-minute intro talking about this. So for a quick like background on me, I love music and I am technically a music producer. I've been making music for probably 3 to 4 years now, if we count all of the bullshit music I was making on like random, like there was a phone app called Music Maker Jam that I was making music on that was literally just like a bunch of pre-made loops that you would put in to make a song and stuff.
Yeah, you were still technically
producing
music.
I was making like music of a sort, but in the past year, maybe a little over a year now, I've gotten FL Studios and I've actually been making like actual real music that you can actually sell and stuff. I don't have any sales right now as far as music goes, but I am actually working on some music for a coworker of mine who's actually making an album. He does music on the side, and I'm going to be making a couple of beats for him. The music that I make falls under the category of dark trap, which is a genre we will be talking about towards the end of this podcast.
It's a good genre.
It's a very good genre, definitely a spooky one. So yeah, I have some music knowledge. I'm not an expert by any means on music in terms of like, I don't fully know music theory or anything. I know enough to really like understand what makes music sound good. And I kind of play by ear a lot of the time. But I do have, you know, some knowledge in audio mixing and production and stuff like that. So I know a little bit about this, and I am going to keep it away from like music theory stuff just because, like I said, for one, I'm not even an expert on that. And for two, I feel like it's a little less accessible to talk about like the deep inner workings of like this chord versus that chord and stuff. I just want to talk about what makes music spooky, man.
I respect that. I took a music theory class in college, and while it was super interesting and I absolutely loved it, I don't remember shit.
Yeah, it is. It's a very dense thing, and in some cases it can be very dry.
Yeah. And because I never really applied it to anything, so I didn't really practice what I learned.
Exactly, yeah.
And I just lost it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
So we're going to talk about a couple of things of what makes music spooky. Because music is an art form just like any other, you know, like visual medium or whatever of art. So music does often bring about like feelings. Like we get moods from music.
You hope so.
Yeah, you hope so anyway. You know, you can think of some of your favorite songs and like, what do they make you feel? They make you feel happy, or they make you feel sad, or they make you feel, you know, like angry or pumped up or whatever.
My favorite ones usually give me goosebumps.
Yeah, goosebumps.
Yeah.
There's a word for that. I forget the actual word, but there's a literal word for like the goosebumps you feel when you hear good music.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's an actual word for that. I forget what it is.
Forgive my typing. I'm going to Google it because I'm curious.
Okay. But while she's typing, we're going to talk about a couple of things that makes music spooky. One of the main things you'll find when you look for this is the difference between minor versus major chords, basically. Major chords, I mean, even if you don't know music theory, this is one thing you probably know, is that major chords give off feelings of joy and euphoria and happiness, and minor chords often give off darker vibes where that's where you get like sad songs, or in this case, spooky songs. You looked up that word. It's Frisian?
I think from what I'm seeing from the phonetic pronunciation, it's Friesen?
Yeah.
Friesen? Ah, that makes sense. It's French.
Ah, yeah. There you go. But yeah, Friesen. That's the goosebumps that you get from good music.
Ooh, I'm freezing over here.
But yeah, the major key gives off feelings of positivity and general happiness, while minor key gives a darker, sadder, or spookier vibe. And the reason for this is that a minor key is lower than the major key. So if you were to take a major chord song that would make you generally feel happier, and you set it to a minor key, this actually does happen sometimes with like when people cover happy, upbeat songs and then make them slower. They often they will also like make it a minor key. They'll make it a minor chord.
Oh, okay.
So there's oh god, I forget the name, or I forget the artist, but there's a song that an artist, Dancing on My Own. The original song is like a dance song, and it's like the song itself, like musically it sounds very happy, but then lyrically it's one of those where like it sounds happy, but then the lyrics are kind of like sad and
like Sugar Crash.
Yeah, like Sugar Crash a little bit. But there is a slowed down cover of it that I forget who made it, but it's just they slow it down a lot and they make it more sad. I don't like when people do that usually. I like when you have happy sounding songs with like sad lyrics.
Yeah, that's a cool contrast.
I love that contrast. And so when people like slow it down, I'm like, no.
This isn't how it was meant to be.
Another thing that can make music spooky is dissonance. It's unstable sounding, and it generally will give you feelings of like conflict and like just
tension.
anxiousness and tension.
Yeah.
Having like off-key melodies or playing two notes at the same time that don't generally go together. Just that feeling of wrong.
Yeah, that like classic like piano played in the wrong key with the wrong notes feeling.
Yeah, or my favorite is like sometimes you'll get this where it's like a broken sounding piano or something, where like certain keys don't work. Like I've heard some music where it does sound like a broken keyboard or something, and it sounds really cool.
Interesting.
Yeah, so like that kind of like feeling in the music can really convey feelings of tension and unease and anxiousness.
Yeah.
Another thing too, this is a little bit more on the music theory side, but there is a sort of music theory of like resolution within the chords and the notes.
Mm-hmm.
So like when you have, especially like when you have a certain loop, there's like supposed to be a resolution at the end of certain chords and stuff. And if you never resolve it, that can also give the music a weird feeling as well.
Like
So,
it needs like no closure and it's still going on and it just
Yeah.
makes you uncomfortable.
Exactly. There are
Yeah.
some songs that do that where like the chord just never resolves, and even if you don't understand music theory, you can feel it in the music.
Oh yeah.
Where like you feel like it's like dun 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 dun, and you're waiting for that last dun, but it never comes, and then like instead it shifts it and goes back to the beginning.
Yeah.
Like that kind of like dissonance in the music can really make a just off atmosphere.
Yeah.
And that's
for
like
sure.
that's a big thing we're going to talk about a lot, is when you're talking about spooky music, we're usually talking about like atmosphere,
Mhm.
like things just feeling off. And when we get to like the later stages, when we talk about the different genres, we will talk a lot about just atmospheric genres. There are other genres that I'm going to talk about a little bit that are not super atmospheric, but I usually don't feel like those make for great horror music. We'll talk about that later, but yeah, atmosphere in music is where I feel like we get the best like spooky music.
I agree. Well, and I feel like atmospheric horror music, it serves the purpose of like getting you as close to you can getting the viewer as close as they can to like the feeling that the character is feeling in that moment.
Yeah, especially if we are looking at like or talking about like scores and stuff in like movies and shit like that. Movies. It's 5 a.m, by the way, and we haven't slept yet.
Yeah.
So
And I've been drinking.
yeah, and we're night owls, but this is a really late recording even for us.
This is usually our bedtime.
Yeah. When we're talking about horror and like music, one of the things to make music spooky is your instrumental choice, obviously.
Of course.
The obvious instruments here are like anything in the strings family. Violins, violas, and like cellos and double bass. Like those are, especially for horror movies, like that's what you're gonna hear. Like I'm thinking of is immediately the Friday the 13th strings.
Yeah.
Like those kind of like violins are so good
Yeah.
at that kind of like sound.
Mhm.
Like that kind of just tension in music when you have like really high pitched violin just played super slow and stuff. Like that kind of stuff is mwah.
Yeah. When you asked me if there was any horror music from like a movie score that stood out to me, or I think you just asked about horror in general with music.
I think I asked you both.
Okay.
I asked you if there's any like genres that you know of that I might not be familiar to that sound spooky, and then I also asked you like your favorite horror movie scores.
Okay. And I said the OG Insidious.
And I listened to it.
Oh, really?
We're gonna talk about that one later.
Oh, sweet.
Um,
Okay.
I listened to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good.
It's so good.
It's so spooky.
It's so spoopy. One of my favorite things to do, since I'm in like the trap area of music, is percussions. I love percussive instruments in horror, like in horror settings, because there's so many ways you could do it. And in like one of my favorite is to just have like a steady rhythm that is sometimes broken up. So like and especially if it's like quieter, if you just have like in the background like a little percussive instrument like something like that can cause a lot of tension.
Oh, that's
in
so subtle
Insidious
and
a little
though.
bit.
Oh, really?
In the very beginning, there's like a little bit of a rhythm that sounds like there's a percussive like instrument, something underneath it, and like I think it's around the 2-minute mark is when it stops, and like that little rhythm in like the beginning, like maybe a little bit offbeat. It just the tension.
Oh, what a nice subtle touch.
It's so good. It's so good. Synths are also a mainstay in horror music ever since they were invented.
I never even thought about that, but yeah, they absolutely are.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Because like, especially with the invention of music DAWs, digital audio workstations, which is like FL Studios, Ableton, Pro Tools, all that stuff. Like
think of it as the Photoshop of producing music.
It really is. It really is.
Yeah.
That's like horror like composers have so much more to play with ever since those were invented. Like synths just by themselves already are just such a great instrument for literally anything.
Yeah.
And then when you like low synth pads and like those droning sounds that you hear.
Oh yeah.
Especially in like sci-fi horror movies like in Alien, which we're going to talk about.
Absolutely.
Like they can give such a thick atmosphere to any kind of music. And like you get like low droning synths, or you can get like those high screeching synths.
Yeah.
And then you can like, you know, pitch them or like turn them down and just have them in the background similar to like a high violin. And like I've heard some horror scores that do that where like in the background you get like that kind of stuff in the background. Like that it's so good. And
yeah.
I don't have this in the horror scores, but I do want to just talk about real quick the movie It Follows.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Disaster Piece is the person who scored that, or the artist who scored that, and that is a great use of like electronic horror movie stuff. Like it's so distorted. It sounds like a corrupted file that was made on some Windows 2 computer or something from like the 70s when computers didn't even exist or whatever. I don't know, like when computers were first existing.
Which is so perfect for the anachronistic like theme that they went with too.
Oh yeah, that movie's so weird. Like I remember watching it.
The clamshell phone.
Yeah, and like also watching the Kill Count. Dead Meat has an amazing channel on YouTube. They have the Kill Count, and he talks about like how in one scene you'll see someone driving around in like a pretty new modern car, but then one of the main characters has like a 50s car or something.
Yeah.
And then you have like TVs that like tube TVs that look like, you know, the TVs that your parents put in your room when you were a kid because they just had it lying around and like, oh, I guess you can have a TV in your room. Like, but then you have this one chick with like this clamshell phone, I guess, that she's reading from.
Yeah.
And it doesn't even look
like one of the old PDAs or like a dedicated like book reader thing, like a Kindle.
Yeah, I don't know. But it doesn't even look like practical.
No, not at all.
But yeah,
although we do have folding phones now, so I guess it's not completely out of the realm of possibility.
We do. I don't understand the purpose of them either.
I know, they were like, you've seen folding phones that didn't have a smart computer and a touchscreen, but now you do.
Another fun instrument that I also love to use when I'm making a spooky song is any kind of like toy instrument.
Ooh,
any like innocent kid sounding instrument.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that's like kind of interesting too, because that's used a lot.
Oh,
like you get music box like horror scores or like toy pianos and stuff. Any kind of like innocent sounding childlike instrument, and then you just give it like a simple high pitched melody.
Mm-hmm.
Instant. like that's just instant shivers. It's like something's not right here.
Yeah.
And I absolutely love that stuff, like glockenspiels and like xylophones and stuff. Just like a little like something like that, like in the background, or even as the main melody can work really well.
Oh, it's great. What's that band that I listened to for a long time or for a while?
Suburban?
Yes, Suburban. He uses, I don't know if he's the one that produces the music, but Suburban,
I think he does.
I'm pretty sure. He seems like a solo act, but I don't know. But Suburban, the band, the dude, the artist, the man, the legend, the god, uses a lot of toy instruments.
Yeah, he has a lot of like plucky in his like music.
A lot of like music boxy sounding, kind of creepy stuff. I love it.
Yeah. And like whatever genre you would classify him as, I'm not really sure.
I have no idea.
But I think it would, like, I think he could probably score a horror movie. If he just changed his sound a tiny
a little bit less, like, you know, because he still has those nice basses and stuff.
Yeah.
Nice melodies.
He has like a little bit of like a trappy influence.
Yeah, you just make that a little bit more dissonant and a little bit more atmospheric.
Yeah, maybe add some distortion here and there.
Yes.
Like, it'd be great. And then another obvious instrument, but I just wanted to add in here, is obviously guitars can be used for horror.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, either distorted or like manipulated through like pedals or effects or something.
Okay.
Guitars are just, you know, just a great instrument, and you can do a lot with them.
Hell yeah.
I have a fun fact about a horror score when we get to it.
I love fun facts.
I have a lot of fun facts in this one. And then, of course, another way to make your music spookier is just sound design. Like, mixing is a huge part of music in general.
I didn't know how big of a part that was until I saw you using FL Studios, and like, you can do so much with one bass sound. It's incredible.
Yeah. And like mixing is just what makes music sound good in general. Like, that can like make or kill us any song. If like something is mixed wrong, then that could just kill it.
I always wondered why the live versions of performances often sounded so different. And that's why. Yeah,
it's because, especially if there's like a lot of vocal effects.
Yeah.
Like, they can't do that live. I mean, maybe they could.
I mean, they can do like, you know, live auto tuning and like the tube thing in the mouth and that kind of thing.
Oh, like, vocalize.
Yeah, but that's only if the music lends itself to that, you know?
Yeah, it's harder to do that live.
Yeah.
But like when we get like, when we're talking about spooky music, then like this is where you can really like have a lot of fun with it, because there's so many different routes you can take. You can have like, for example, vocals that are like mixed really heavily in the background and like drenched in auto-tune and stuff, or not auto-tune, but reverb, and then like echoes and stuff. And you can make it sound like, you know, like some kind of like ghostly whispers or something, or you can like bring the vocals up front. One of the horror scores that I'm going to be talking about has that, where it's a very, very, like, there's not even any like lyrics. It's literally just a female singer going la la la, but it's like mixed so like up front. It sounds like she's like right in your freaking ear.
Oh, wow.
And like in my head, I was thinking to myself, I would have probably like give this like a bunch of auto-tune, put her in the background, and like make it seem ghostly.
You mean a bunch of reverb, right?
Yeah, I keep saying auto-tune. I don't know why.
Dude, imagine...
I think it's because you said auto-tune earlier, and that's
bad. Imagining a ghost with a heavy auto-tune filter.
That's great.
Hey, I am a ghost.
But no, like I would have thought to like, you know, giving that a bunch of reverb, put it in the background, make it sound real ghostly and stuff. But whoever made that, I forget. I'll get to that when we get to that part. Yeah, they had the forethought, I guess, to instead just keep her right up front, and it just makes it sound honestly probably better than my idea, especially with the way the rest of the song is.
Oh wow! Does it make it feel like she's just kind of like right in your face, just kind of Giving
Yeah.
me that uncomfortable, like you're in my bubble feeling.
Yeah, that's exactly what it feels like.
That's cool.
I'll remember once I see it, but I don't remember it off the top of my head which one it was.
We'll come back to that.
And one of the, like, this is a more like layout of your music, but two common tactics for horror composers are the build and the surprise. And the way to think of that is like jump scares, or what I would call false scares in a movie.
Oh, yeah. Very familiar with those.
Yeah. So, like, the build, you can have, you know, something simple, just like low droning synths, or like some cellos or violins or something. And then they can slowly, like, raise in pitch and, like, you know, in volume and stuff. And then you can have a surprise at the end, which is like, you know, some kind of high screeching sounds, or just like a really like chaotic melody or something. Or alternatively, you could just say fuck you to your audience and just have it build into nothing.
Oh, that's devious.
That's the kind of stuff that I love to do, and that's the kind of stuff that I like to play with. And like also like a delayed surprise, so you can have like a big build into like nothingness. And one thing, too, is, like, people don't think about this, but silence can be very, very powerful in music.
Oh, I could totally see that.
And, like, especially when we're talking about horror music, having some kind of pause can really, like, give the audience this just tense feeling. Like, they're expecting it. You know, they're expecting something.
Yeah.
And it's just like when you're watching a movie, you know, you're watching someone slowly walk through this dark corridor, and you're expecting some, you know, a ghost or a serial killer, something to jump out of, you know, one of the 50,000 doorways in this hallway.
Yeah.
And then just nothing happens.
Butthole fully clenched for no reason.
Exactly. This is also kind of like similar to Alfred Hitchcock's theory about tension. He calls it suspense versus surprise. I feel like we've talked about it in the podcast before.
I was just about to say I'm not familiar, but I am familiar actually. I don't know if we've talked about it on the podcast though.
If we haven't, the idea of it is Alfred Hitchcock, his theory, I guess, or, you know, his belief on like this idea is he described it as like, or he explained it as like, if you were to have a scene of like 4 people sitting around a table and they're talking, and, you know, it's a very dull scene, there's not much going on, but then suddenly a bomb goes off underneath the table and it blows all them people up.
We have talked about this on the podcast before.
Yeah, you get like, you know, 5 seconds of surprise, 10 seconds of surprise, but then you instead tell the people that there's a bomb there and it's going to go off in 5 minutes. Then, now you have suspense. Now the audience is, like, on edge. They're like, oh my god, that bomb. But the guy's the bomb. And, you know, that it's just kind of a similar idea, just in music form.
Okay, yeah.
And then the last thing that I have here is audio texture, which might sound weird, but just like physical items, audio does have a texture to it. And it can be warm and lush and soft, or it can be like hard and like gritty and unpleasant.
That doesn't make a ton of logical sense, but it makes so much sense at the same time.
Yeah. If you think about like a song that is like very lush and soft, you know, like I'm immediately thinking of something like from Netski or something, which is like a liquid drum and bass producer. And like all of his songs are very like lush. There's like a lot of like very pretty synths, and soundscapes are just really nice, versus someone like, let's say, Scarlord, who has extremely heavy distortion and bass and guitars and like all this other stuff. Like there's a clear difference in the texture, like the literal feel of the two songs.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying Scarlord is a spooky horror artist or anything. He just does trap metal, which is awesome.
Yeah.
But like his music is very different texturally from like, you know, something that's a little bit more melodic and like softer.
You know, I never realized until you brought that up so like in such certain terms, but I always have like basically a visualizer in my head when I listen to a lot of music.
Oh yeah.
And like softer textured songs I imagine as like cool colors, like greens and blues and whites and
yeah.
I don't know. I don't think white's technically a cool color, but you know, it goes with that softer
it's lighter,
texture.
lighter.
Yeah. Scarlord is just red, blood red, dark red, black.
Yeah.
And like the literal texture of the like it's like light waves going like am I crazy?
No. I totally understand that because like I have similar like visualizers, except for me it's like actual like visuals rather than just like colors, if that makes sense. Like I'll make a music video in my head as I'm listening to a song.
Yeah.
And there's a very clear difference and yeah, like what you said,
For
like
sure.
different sounds definitely give you different visuals.
Yeah. That's so funny that you think of music videos to songs too, because I do that too.
I do it all the time.
I've made some great music videos that
Me
nobody
too.
will ever see.
Me too. But yeah, like in music you can obviously have different textures in your sounds. One of my favorite things to do in my own music is I'll have like a simple and sometimes even just like a repetitive melody. Sometimes it'll be just 2 bars and it'll be like 4, 5, maybe 6 notes just played, like the same 4 or 5 notes played like repetitively.
Mm-hmm.
And like that'll be mixed like kind of higher. And then on the lower end is I'll have like, really distorted bass and then like some low chords from like synths or something. And that kind of like, repetitive melody at that high end combined with that like low kind of almost muddy sounding low end, like gives like a bit of a dissonance to the music. But also I feel like it gives the audience like that one melody to kind of grab onto at the very least, while like the rest of the song can almost be like completely chaotic even.
Yeah.
Or like just be even almost barely there. Like I've made some beats. I've never made full songs yet. I've only made beats.
You worked on a full song once.
I did once. But I've scrapped it since. I'm
No,
going to
Did you delete it?
No.
Okay, good.
I haven't deleted it.
It was your first step. Give yourself a
Yes,
break.
I know. Anyway, so what I was saying though is I have actually made beats where there's actually very, very little melody, and it's mostly like percussion and drums, and the melody would be like repetitive, but not to the point of like boring the audience.
Right.
Like I'll bring it in, I'll take it out, I'll change it up a little bit, but it's just like like a very simple melody that is just kind of going along with what is actually like a pretty spare beat as well. Like there's not a lot to the tracks, and that's also can make it sound spookier.
Yeah.
Because you feel like there should be more.
Right.
It feels kind of empty.
Yeah.
So we talked about like how to make music spooky. How far in are we? We're already like half an hour in. Holy crap.
Oh my god. I told you this is going to be a long episode.
It's gonna be a long
This might
episode.
be a 2-parter.
I don't know. We'll see.
think? We'll see.
We'll see.
We'll see.
But we have some iconic horror movie scores. So I went to, I found the website called discovermusic.com, and they have a pick for their top 30 horror soundtracks. Some of them I already knew, some of them I had to take a listen to, but we're going to go through the top 10.
Okay.
And we're going to talk about them a little bit. And then I also have a couple honorable mentions that I picked out. And the list picked specific songs. And so I listened to those specific songs, not like the whole soundtrack.
Oh, okay.
That would be a lot.
That would be so much.
So I listen to them if I haven't heard them, or if I haven't heard them in a while.
Uh-huh.
I just re-listen to them. Some of them I obviously didn't need to, such as number 1.
Yeah.
Their number 1 pick is, of course, it's Halloween.
Of course.
John Carpenter, 1979, and they, of course, picked the main theme.
course.
I love that fucking theme.
Classic.
I want to like that theme should like be in like some kind of dark trap song. I feel like a slowed down. Dun, 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 dun. Like could you hear that?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, I'm surprised nobody's done that. I bet you it's so hard to get rights to sample that.
Probably. There is a rap song that samples the Saw theme.
Oh.
I forget who did that. It's someone we both know. I just forget who did it.
Wow.
But yeah, this is an obvious fucking pick.
Oh, yeah.
A little basic, I'll admit.
Yeah.
But
I bet
like
it was pretty influential in the
it was
scene of horror soundtracks, though.
Super influential. But also, the quick little fun fact here. So John Carpenter, obviously, he wrote and directed Halloween, and then also the second one, and he did the music to it.
Mm-hmm.
And then he kind of stopped. He left Halloween for a little bit. And when the 2018 requel came out, that's what we're calling them apparently, is requels.
Requels?
Yeah.
Like a remake prequel?
No. It's a sequel.
Oh, okay.
It's a remake that's a sequel.
Okay.
So like Halloween 2018 takes place directly after the original Halloween movie, and it ignores everything else. So Halloween 2018 is essentially Halloween 2, and it creates a new timeline in the Michael Myers universe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just for some context, Phinn is a slasher horror movie buff, kind of? Like
A little bit.
you don't know everything about everything, like, and you don't just blindly love it all, but you definitely have a better base of knowledge than I do.
Yeah.
I love horror movies, but I'm not the biggest slasher fan. Like, I'll watch a few here and there, but like I don't have the patience to follow Halloween for sure. I've seen a couple, but shit. The fact that the fucking second one's a requel.
Halloween, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and not really. Friday the 13th has been pretty consistent with its storyline, but like those two, especially Halloween and Texas Chainsaw Massacre, have probably 3 or 4 different timelines within them.
Jesus Christ.
Because like this movie is a sequel to this movie, and then this movie is a sequel to this movie over here, and then this one starts a whole new timeline, and then we have a sequel to that movie, and then this movie is a sequel to that movie, but it's not a part of this timeline, it's part of that time. Like, it's a mess.
You sound like you're describing Kingdom Hearts lore.
It might as well be. But for the 2018 Halloween movie, John Carpenter actually returned with his son to do music.
Oh, wow.
And in the movie, there's a scene where the main character meets Michael Myers for the first time. It's a great scene. They're on the opposite ends of this giant, like, metal gate that, like, has a, like, it's like you could see through it, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And Michael Myers appears on the one side of the gate and she's on the other. And so there's an obstacle between them, but they're like face to face. And there's a musical cue that's so fucking good. And it was done by them running a bowstring, like a violin string, across a guitar. And it sounds so cool.
Interesting.
It's like this crazy music cue where it's like,
Ooh.
And it's, it just like like perfectly cherry on top for that scene. That's beautiful.
Damn.
The number 2, they have Suspiria, which was composed by Goblin in 1975, and they of course chose the main theme, which is just called Suspiria. I never seen Suspiria, but I've always wanted to. I do know who Goblin is. I've heard of them before. They're kind of like this like synthy band from like the 70s. They did a lot of horror movie stuff. This score is kind of goated. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah?
It's like 6 minutes long. It's so good though. There's like a bunch of eerie synths, and there's like this barely audible vocal whispering in the background. Like, I don't know if they're even saying words. It just sounds like, and it's like in the background with all these little synths and like violins and stuff. And then like for a while it kind of breaks into an actual like theme, but it's still super spooky. And then it like kind of like all goes back down to that like synth and like vocal whispering. It's so eerie. Like, it goosebumps.
What is Suspiria? I've never even heard of Suspiria.
You never heard of it?
No.
Oh, I've heard of it. I've never seen it. It's a weird movie to try to like. You'd probably like it. It's supernatural.
Ooh.
It's very like mind fucky. I have the little like Wikipedia description here.
An American newcomer to a prestigious German ballet academy comes to realize that the school is a front for something sinister amid a series of grisly murders. Ooh, so much intrigue.
It's like supernatural. It's very trippy. It's very like visually dynamic.
That sounds so up my alley.
Like Suspiria is like one of those movies where like if you're someone who loves set design and like costume and like visuals, like Suspiria is one of those movies. Like cinematography, brilliant. There's like a very famous shot of like I think it's like a woman going through like a glass ceiling or something. It's very like well done, and like I want to see it with you.
I'm so down. That sounds sick.
For number 3, they have Eraserhead. This one was composed by David Lynch and Alan R. Siplet? Siplet? I don't know. Split.
He jumped off the window, he goes split.
This one was in 1982, and the song that they chose was In Heaven, which is the Lady in the Radiator song. This is another one I haven't seen. I know of Eraserhead. I don't know much about it. I also haven't heard this song. I thought this was going to be something different. But it wasn't. I thought this was going to be like, I don't know the name of the song, but I've heard it. I think it's also in the fucking Paris Hilton House of Wax movie.
Oh, wow.
But this one is not the one that I'm thinking of. It's not that one. This is like a little like minute and a half long. It's a really eerie little song. It's very quiet, which is I think one of the things that makes it so eerie. And it's just like this lady singing about like being in heaven, basically. But yeah, everything's real quiet and like spooky sounding. It's honestly, this sounds like something that would be like organically in a scene. Like it sounds like something that should be playing from like an old radio in like a Silent Hill game, and like when you get closer to it, it gets louder or something. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Like that's the kind of vibe this song gives
Ooh,
off.
I like that. Okay.
It's very, very creepy. At number 4, they have Alien.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Of course.
Composed by Jerry Goldsmith in 1979. The song they chose was Facehugger, which I'm pretty sure is the what plays during the infamous chest bursting scene at dinner.
Oh, okay.
And this one's a fucking classic.
Oh, this one goes hard.
Alien, just in general, is a great movie. The soundtrack is awesome. This one is like, it changes so much. Like, it goes from like really like hectic short string stabs and like dun, 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 and then like everything gets quiet, and then it just goes low and droning, and then it picks back up, and then it stops again. Like there's just so much going on, and it honestly kind of does feel like that scene a little bit where there's just so much chaos.
Yeah.
Like there's chaos, but also not a lot is happening. It's just you're
Right.
so confused at what is happening.
Yeah.
Why is this man's chest coming out? Like like there's not a lot going on, but what is going on feels like a lot. And that's
Yeah.
kind of how this song feels.
It's a great way to put it.
Yeah. And then of course number 5 we have Jaws.
Oh,
John Williams,
of course.
75.
Classic as classic gets.
Shark Attack, the
Yeah.
obvious pick. I don't know what to say. This is self-explanatory.
You know it. You love it.
Yeah.
It's Jaws.
There is a cool thing. Williams described the music as, quote, grinding away at you just as a shark would do. Instinctual, relentless, and unstoppable. And that's pretty much that. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
exactly what it feels like.
Yeah.
The song feels like a shark creeping up on you.
It does. Oh, yeah.
Dun,
Oh, shit.
dun,
Oh, my God.
dun, 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 and then just I fucking love this song. Number 6, they have Cannibal Holocaust. Composed by Riz Ortolani?
Ortolan.
I'm pretty sure it's Italian. His name is fucking Riz, though. That's pretty cool.
That is... Dude, man's got so much Riz. That was his name.
This was composed in 1980, and if they chose the main theme, Cannibal Holocaust. This is their list. I don't know what the fuck to tell you there. Like, I don't know what to tell you, man. This score is weird.
Cannibal Holocaust did a horror movie score?
No.
Oh.
It's not. It's not horror. That's why it's weird, and that's why it's weird that it's here.
What?
Because it doesn't sound spooky. Like, it's really soothing. It's almost lush. It feels almost like a vacation tune. The biggest thing I could say is, like, in the very beginning, there is, like, a weird, like, low sound that I don't know if it's, like, synths or violins or something, but it almost gives a weird dissonant sound in the very beginning. But then they just throw that away, and it just becomes, like, a fucking vacation song on the beach.
What the fuck?
And I think that's why it's here, is because it's completely subversive, and especially being attached to this fucking movie, like, having something like that is, like, not supposed to happen.
I was so shocked by the mention of Cannibal Holocaust that I didn't even catch the movie.
Yeah.
What movie is it?
Cannibal Holocaust.
Oh, wait. I'm thinking of Cannibal Corpse.
No. No, they were in Ace Ventura, though.
What?
Yeah, there's this... You don't remember that?
I remember Ace Ventura. Who did what song?
No. Cannibal Corpse is in Ace Ventura.
Oh,
like, the band is in the...
Wait, which Ace Ventura?
The first one.
Oh.
Yeah. He goes to, like, one of their shows. And there's, like,
what?
Yeah, there's,
I
like...
don't remember that.
Yeah, he goes to one of their shows to, like, ask questions. And, like, there's a little gag where, like, you know, everyone's obviously headbanging because they're fucking Cannibal Corpse is playing, so of course they're headbanging. And, like, he asks someone a question, and of course they don't hear him or they're not listening, and they just keep headbanging, and he just takes that as, like, a yes, basically. There's, like, a little gag in there.
Ace Ventura, Pet Detective.
Yes. There's a scene where he goes to a show, and Cannibal Corpse is playing their song Hammer Smashed Face, which is one of my favorites.
Bro, we gotta rewatch that movie. I do not remember that at all, but I haven't seen that movie since I was a young wee child.
Fair enough. But yeah, Cannibal Holocaust is the movie we're talking about.
Okay, is that the one with the fucking, like, the religious connotations and stuff?
No?
What's Cannibal Holocaust? Is that the... What's Cannibal Holocaust? I've been thinking Cannibal Corpse this whole time, so I'm all fucked up right now.
So Cannibal Holocaust is a ridiculous fucking movie. It's an exploitation movie about exploitation.
Is that the one with the really shitty filming conditions that you told me about?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
There's really just filming the movie in general was horrible. There's horrible filming conditions. There was actual thoughts that they killed people because they actually did kill animals. Like,
yeah.
When you watch that movie, you're actually watching animals die. Like, that's what's fucked up.
And I will never see that movie.
Yeah, especially, like, because some of the animals that die, I don't want to watch these animals die.
I wouldn't even want to watch them die if they didn't actually die on screen.
Fair enough. That's fair. But the fact that it actually happened.
Makes
and then
it so much worse.
Yeah, the dude was charged with, like, obscenity and, like, also potential murder because they thought they actually did kill people because everything else was fucking real in that movie, so why not this?
Wow.
Like, there's a moment where... Because, like, the movie, if you don't know what Cannibal Holocaust is, these filmmakers, or these, like, documentary people go to this, like, place to document this tribe, like a native tribe that is very, like, primal is the best way to put it. Like, they're very primitive, a very primitive tribe. And a part of their culture is when someone dies, if they're healthy, they eat them. So, like, they actually consume their own dead, which is obviously something that is very weird to us in society, modern society. And so, like, these filmmakers, these, like, documentary filmmakers, they start being complete assholes. They start killing people of the tribe, and they start, like, torturing them and stuff. At one point, they shove them all into a hut and light the hut on fire. And that was real. They did that, and they didn't even, like, give anyone any safety precautions. They just literally threw them in a hut and set it on fire.
Oh my god!
And those were unpaid natives, too.
What year was this?
1980. I thought it was 79. Yeah.
Bruh!
Yeah.
What the fuck?
That's what you get when you're talking about exploitation films. But yeah, this score is just weird.
Just exploit the non-white people, of course. Let's fucking go. America.
Oh no, they exploit anything.
Yeah, that's fair.
That whole movie's weird because like there's a plot in the movie, like the documentary plot is like a subplot to the actual plot. That is this guy who's looking for the documentary crew, finds the tapes, figures out what happened, and then is basically trying to argue with these other people, saying like, yo, these like documentary people are being like held up like they're heroes and stuff, but if you watch these tapes, they're fucking awful people, and like they're just trying to make the natives look worse when really they're the ones that are like, you know, being ridiculous here.
What a strange like pro-native message for how the movie was filmed.
Yeah, like I said, it's an exploitation movie about exploitation.
That's crazy.
And it's so weird, and that's one of the things that makes it weird.
That makes me feel so icky. I need a shower now.
That's why I think the fucking score is in here for the best, because the score is not anything like you would expect.
Really?
It like I said, it sounds like a fucking vacation thing. Like you're like so, like it sounds like it should be in the ad for like a travel like agency or something. Like, do you want to go on vacation? We have just the right thing for you. Like it's what it sounds like. And number 7, we have another very obvious one, and it's Psycho. Bernard Herrmann in 1960, and of course they picked The Murder, which is the infamous like the shower scene.
Yeah, you always go higher. The first part's lower.
I know, but I always think of it as like,
why would you think of the outro?
It's not even the outro.
Well, the later part of it.
I don't know.
This is irrelevant completely.
It's very irrelevant. Well, it actually kind of is relevant. Because
okay,
like
fair, yeah.
the thing about that is that like in the beginning you have obviously that like high-pitched screeching violins. Mm-hmm. And then it repeats, which is why I go higher, because it repeats and it makes it feels like it gets higher. And that's why I repeat it higher. And I don't know why, but like that's how it is in my head. And I think it's just because I maybe seen something where it started like that.
Oh,
like
yeah,
maybe they like it started. I don't know. But the weird thing about this is I always do forget the later part, which is after the murder is done in the movie. In the song, everything dies down, and it just gets like, you just get long, like, droning violin, like, notes being played, basically.
Really?
And the reason for that, I feel, is because in the movie, so if you don't know, the main character of the movie, or the main actress, oh my god, I can't remember her name now. She was... You know, I'm just going to look it up now. Because I can't remember her freaking name, and it's driving me crazy. Is it Janet Leigh? Is that her? I believe that's her.
You asking the wrong chick. I've never even seen the movie, unfortunately. I need to, though.
But yeah, she was like advertised all over the, like, when the movie was coming out, she was all over the advertisements. And it was like she was supposed to be the star essentially, and then she gets murdered like halfway through the movie, and then like you realize that it's another person that's the main character. And that was like a huge thing at the time because the actress was huge. It's obvious she's the main character, and then she's not. She gets killed, and that's one why the music is so just extreme right off the bat. And also, after the murder happens, there's like 4 or 5 minutes of just the killer cleaning up. Like, he's just, like, changing out towels and putting, like, the shower curtain back up and cleaning everything off. It's, like, 5 minutes of that or something.
Oh, wow.
Because, like, it was Hitchcock's way of being like, yeah, the audience needs to realize that this has happened. So, like, he put this, like, long scene in of just the killer cleaning up the crime scene and getting away with it because everyone was sure that this chick was going to be the main character.
That's such a cool thing.
Yeah.
They did the Metal Gear Solid 2 thing.
Yeah, they did.
Where they were like, oh, of course it's gonna be Snake. It's always Snake. And they're like, nah, you get to play as this cute little ninja femboy.
Say hello to Raiden.
A nerd?
But yeah, and also, that's also why he had the, like, gimmick in his movie where you weren't allowed to go into that movie late. You weren't allowed to go, like, buy tickets late.
Oh, wow. Because he wanted that. He wanted people to see that. That's such a... Oh, I've never even heard of something like that. That's so cool.
Oh, yeah. We could do a whole thing about movie gimmicks. They're great.
I didn't know that was
Horror
a thing.
movie gimmicks are a thing.
What?
William Castle. We could do a whole thing about him. I could do a whole thing about William Castle.
I don't know who that is, dog.
William Castle is a movie director who... He did, like, a bunch of low-budget horror movies, kind of. And he always had a gimmick. His movies were all gimmicky and fun, and like he would do really weird stuff, like putting buzzers underneath theater seats to make you jump. Oh. So like when a jump scare happens in the movie, you felt it.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, stupid.
I love that.
It's great. I love it.
I've never heard of anybody doing that lately, like nowadays.
Oh no, you would never get away with stuff like that nowadays.
Well,
but
yeah, people don't get paid enough to give a fuck enough to do shit like that at the movie theater.
To be fair, they didn't get paid enough to give a fuck back then, which is another reason why it stopped.
Oh, yeah, fair enough.
But, yeah, Psycho is just a great one. So at number 8, they have Rosemary's Baby, and I'm not even going to try to pronounce that name.
Oh my god, I took a look and I was like, maybe I could take a crack at it. No.
I think it's Russian. Like 1968, Krzysztof Komeda?
Krzysztof Komeda? I know zero about how to pronounce or say anything Russian, period, so I have no idea.
But yeah, they picked the Rosemary's main theme. This is the theme I was talking about with the singer. This is just a demented lullaby.
Oh, okay.
It's just like acoustic guitars and some bass with some weird synth sounds and strings.
It's the main theme, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I've seen Rosemary's Baby.
Yeah, I remember you watching it, and you said that it was okay, but not that great.
Yeah, I feel like it's kind of overrated, but it might be because I saw it outside of its time period, and like, I don't know.
Yeah, this is like peak, like satanic panic time.
That's so
which
true.
Is probably why I think it got so big. I mean, I haven't seen it, or if I have, it's been so long I don't remember it. But the theme is pretty spooky. I do like it.
It is a good theme.
I do like the theme.
Yeah, it's a good theme.
That just like simple, just la 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 over like acoustic guitars and some bass is just, I don't know. There's something about that. It hits something.
That simplistic, like, oh yeah, it hits good.
It hits real good.
Well, it hits kind of bad, but that's the good part about it.
Yeah. I even say this in the notes, like, the only thing that would change is to add reverb to the vocals, but the fact that the vocals are so dry just makes it sound more intimate.
Yeah.
It just makes it sound like she's right there singing to you.
Yeah. Oh, it is 100% like that.
Yeah.
That is what we were talking about earlier. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And number 9, we have The Omen, which was done by Jerry Goldsmith in 1976. And the theme is Ave Satani, which is literally this is just a satanic Latin chant with strings and horns.
Is Satani just Satan in Latin?
I have always seen Satanas, not Satani. I think Satani is slightly different than Satan. I think it stands for... I think it's like something else. It's just... type in Satani Latin or something, or like whatever. But yeah, it's basically Hail Satan, but I think it's a slightly different like spelling or whatever.
The Latinized title translates to Hail Satan in English. In an interview, Goldsmith says that his idea was to create a kind of satanic version of Gregorian chant and came up with ideas while talking with the London choir master. Okay, yeah.
You literally just like...
Sorry, I didn't mean to narrate your notes before you
got
a chance to.
You're good. But yeah, he was just trying to think of he was trying to come up with a satanic version of a Gregorian chant, and he came up with this. I didn't know this, but I know this theme from like memes and stuff. Like anytime you have some kind of like meme stuff and there's like a big chant with like that's probably this theme. It's like Ave Satani, and it's like, yeah, it's iconic. I've definitely heard this used in memes and stuff, which is so funny and kind of took away from the spookiness when I was listening to it.
I
But
can see that.
Like once I got to that part, I was like, oh my god, all I can see now is just memes.
Yeah.
But like up until then, and with that context removed, it is a pretty spooky sounding like song, but I don't know. It's not my favorite out of all of these. It might be my least favorite, but I do like it.
I don't think I've seen The Omen, and I have not heard that track.
You have probably heard at least a part of the track in some kind of memes because it's so overused in them, honestly, in a lot of ways.
Yeah, okay.
If I played it for you, especially towards the end, which is where the song gets used the most, you definitely have heard it.
Okay.
I promise you that. And number 10 comes from a movie that I've never heard of and I've never seen, called Under the Skin. And this was done by Jonathan Glazer in 2013. This is the most recent one out of this whole top 10 list.
Yeah, wow.
2013. I've never seen this movie. I've never even heard of this movie. It's about an alien that disguises itself as a chick and basically lures men into her van and eats them, I guess. I've never heard of it, but this score slaps, man. This is a good one.
Yeah?
Oh man, this one's like so atmospheric and like throughout the entire score, there is like the simple like thump clap of a bass and snare. But it's so slow, and it's all like both of them have reverb. So the whole time and throughout this whole score, you're just hearing dun, dun, like throughout the whole thing. And then like in between there, you have like these low like droning sounding synths and bass, and then like that will just cut out, and then all you're left with is just the gun, gun, and then it all comes back. Like it's, oh man, this score is really good.
That sounds really cool.
I want you to listen to it. It's a little bit like long for like what it is, but oh my god, like it's actually really spooky.
Wow, okay.
Like I love how simple it is. I love how quiet it gets. I love the fact that the main like rhythm is in the background with so much reverb. Like it just sounds like so much atmosphere and tension. Like I want to know what this movie is now.
Wow, I was gonna say that's the soundtrack. You make the soundtrack sound so cool. I wonder how good the movie is.
Me too. I don't remember the scores on the movie. I think it was fairly decent, but
okay. It sounds like an interesting sounds like a somewhat basic premise that could be made really cool.
Yeah, or just be very boring. I have seen.
Yeah.
When I was listening to the score on YouTube, I scrolled down to the comments just to see what people said, and a lot of people was talking about how much they loved the score. I did see some people talking about how they didn't like the movie because they thought it was too slow. But I don't know.
I kind of like slow burns, but
I do too.
I guess slow burns have to have a good payoff, though.
Yeah, that's the biggest issue. That when you have a slow burn, there's got to be a payoff at the end.
If you don't, it just feels like you wasted your fucking life.
It does. But that's their top 10. So we got number 1 is Halloween. Number 2 is Suspiria. Number 3 is Eraserhead. Number 4 is Alien. Number 5 is Jaws. Number 6 is Cannibal Holocaust. Number 7 is Psycho. Number 8 is Rosemary's Baby. 9 is The Omen. And 10 is Under the Skin.
I was gonna do number 10.
Oh. So we got honorable mentions. 4 of them. And the first one is, of course, the one you mentioned, Insidious.
Yes!
Done by Joseph Bishara in 2010.
Bishara.
And, of course, they talked about the main theme. I've never listened to it, and I gave it a listen, like I said, and it is so fucking creepy.
It's so good!
For the first, 2 minutes, there's, this pulsing rhythm in the background that makes everything feels uneasy. And then after that, it just sounds like a fucking choir of violins being murdered for, a minute and a half. Yeah. There's, no melody in any of it. No. It sounds like someone's just, it's so weird. Oh my god, dude.
It makes you so uncomfortable. I love it so much.
And that's the biggest thing, too, is it's pure chaos. In the beginning, it sounds like, oh, this is your standard spooky horror movie thing. But then all of a sudden, it's just the violins just have a stroke for a minute and a half. And there's no melody, there's no rhythm, there's nothing.
God,
it's just death. It's just despair and death. And it's so good.
It's so good.
I don't know. Joseph, he was on something when he did this, and whatever it was good.
Some good shit.
Some good shit. Yeah. We have The Thing, done by Ennio Morricone. One of my personal favorite horror scores ever.
Oh yeah.
I love it. It's that steady, repetitive, heartbeat, kind of bass tone. And then, you have the swells of, some synths and stuff. It's tense, it's atmospheric, and it's bullshit that this was nominated for Worst Movie Horror Score at the Razzies.
What?
It was nominated. And get this. So it was nominated for Worst Music Score at the Razzies in 1983. But then 33 years later, unused tracks from the same soundtrack were reused as part of a soundtrack for a movie called The Hateful Eight, and it won for Best Score.
I know The Hateful Eight. Dude.
I don't know The Hateful Eight.
I think it's, Inglourious Bastards, that guy.
Oh, really?
What's his name?
I don't remember.
You know who I'm talking about, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's the same guy. And Django Unchained.
Yeah, I know exactly who you're talking about. I don't remember his name.
I'm pretty sure that's him.
Wow.
That's fucking so fucked up. Dude, The Thing got so shafted, but it
did.
So good.
It did. That's what happens when you put your gory ass depressing alien movie up against fucking E.T.
Fuck E.T. Sorry, hot take here, but fuck E.T. I'm not, as strangely enough, as a wholesome, loving person myself, I hate wholesome, loving media.
It's so true, though. But that is legitimately what happened, if you didn't know. Yeah, John Carpenter released The Thing around the same time as Steven Spielberg did E.T., and everyone wanted to watch E.T. because it was a fun alien movie for the kids and stuff. No one wanted to watch this depressing, gory, blood fest.
I did.
Yeah, so did I. But yeah, I fucking love The Thing's,
although I
score.
Won't... Yeah, dude, The Thing score is so fucking good.
Doom, doom.
Yeah.
Doom, doom.
Oh, fuck. I'm not gonna lie, E.T. kind of scared me when I was a young child.
E.T. scared a lot of people when they were younger.
Really?
Certain scenes, the cornfield scene, is actually terrifying if you're a kid. When they first find E.T., it's terrifying.
I was so young, I don't know how much of the movie I got through, and I don't remember what I did get through.
Oh, yeah. Another part about E.T. when everyone talks about scared them is towards the end when the government comes and turns their fucking house into, a containment area.
Oh, damn.
And then there's, a shot where, the kid's, running around his house. It doesn't even look like a house anymore. There's, fucking, the plastic covers, at, food, like fast food places when you like go into the cooler and there's like that plastic cover.
Oh yeah.
There's a shot of like the kid. He's about to like leave the room that he's in, and then like this fucking government agent guy comes in full biohazard gear and everything, and just comes through that like doorway, and it's creepy as hell if you're a kid.
Wow.
Especially since like he's so much bigger than the kid, like it just feels like, oh god, like it's just not right.
Damn.
And then another honorable mention is The Exorcist, which was done by William Friedkin in 1973.
The Tubular Bells?
Yes, The Tubular Bells. I put this on here because it's a very interesting story. The original composer, I don't know how to pronounce... Lalo Schifrin? I have no idea how to pronounce that.
That's the closest I would get.
He was originally hired to do the music for The Exorcist, but was taken off by the film director because the score was apparently too scary or something. I don't know.
Wow. For The Exorcist?
Yeah.
Dude, at the time, wasn't that like completely like just more extreme than anything anybody had ever seen to that point?
Pretty much. He says that the mix of those frightening scenes and my music, which were also a very difficult and heavy score, scared the audience away. So he was dropped, and then they ended up using Mike Oldfield's Tubular Bells, which is actually a, like, I think 10+ minute prog rock song. And is not even supposed to be like a spooky thing. But yeah, the beginning of that song is those like that piano riff from The Exorcist. And what's even cool, like funnier and cooler about this is that song became a hit because of the movie. Like it was a charting single.
That's fucking insane. I had no idea. I know Tubular Bells from the movie very well, but I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's a smaller portion of a much longer song. I think they did release a shortened version, which was for the movie, and that's what became the hit. But it was like a charting single.
That's crazy. I need to hear the whole song now.
It's a long one.
I bet. Well, because Tubular Bells is fairly long by itself in the movie, so I would imagine.
Yeah, Oldfield, the composer, I guess you could call him, he joked that he's the godfather of scary music. He also has a really weird, like, storied career. If you don't know, go check out Todd in the Shadows. He has a whole series called One Hit Wonderland, where he takes a look at artists who are only known for one song, and he did like a Halloween episode for Tubular Bells, and he talks about Oldfield, like the whole video is just about him and his career. A very strange career, very interesting guy. But the last honorable mention that I honestly just wanted to bring up is The Green Room, or just Green Room. Brooke and Will Blair did all the ambient film score type tracks, but then they just had a bunch of other artists do the rest of the music. A lot of the music in Green Room is oh god, what's the word for it? Oh my god. Diegetic, that's the word.
What does diegetic mean again?
Diegetic means it's a sound that's in the universe of the movie.
That's right. Okay. Yeah.
So Green Room is it's like a punk rock type movie. So the soundtrack is just all over the place. You got black metal, you got death metal, you got punk rock, you got hardcore, got all kinds of stuff in there, and then all the ambient stuff by Brooke and Will Blair. And I just think it's really cool. And there's also a really awesome cover of Nazi Punk's Fuck Off by Dead Kennedys.
It's so good.
It's so good. They amp it up a lot.
I honestly like it better than the OG.
I think I do too. It's amped up way more. It's done by the in-universe band who has an actual Spotify page, which is awesome.
That's
even though,
so sick.
Yeah, the only songs they have are just for this song, for this movie. There's 4 of them. They're all bangers. I love all of them. Nazi Punk's "Fuck Off" is a really fun cover. They have a song called "What Have I Become," Coronary, which is all about having a heart attack at a 7-Eleven.
That's awesome.
And, oh god, what's the other one? Toxic Evolution, which is like a bonus track. You don't hear it in the movie. It's the only song you don't hear in the movie, but they actually have a song for it in the soundtrack. And it's all about, just like pollution and radiation and shit like that. And also a funny thing that I didn't even think about until I was actually listening to the music. I was listening to, The Ain't Rights, which is the in-universe band in the movie. And they're called The Ain't Rights, which my thought obviously is like, oh, it's a punk band, and they have songs called What Have I Become and Coronary, where they're having a heart attack in the 7-Eleven. Their name obviously means like we're not okay, we're not right. But it also, the song Toxic Evolution is clearly like very left-leaning, so they ain't right.
Oh.
Like, it's so stupid, but I had a little giggle at myself when I realized that.
That's awesome, though. Oh, it's so silly, but I love that.
Yeah. So, we have some, obviously those are the horror movie scores, but let's talk about horror genres. So I looked throughout the internet, I scoured the interwebs to find horror genres, and I found a lot of really random ones that I didn't even know existed and that have pretty small, like, followings, I guess you could say. So I didn't get to go through all of them, but we do have two genres where horror is in the name and they are very clearly horror themed. We also have a genre that has terror in the name, which we're going to talk about. I don't think it's the great horror music, but it has terror in the name, so it counts.
Oh.
And then we have a genre that is what I would consider the closest you can get to an actual horror film score without being labeled film score.
Okay.
And also have a fun fact for one of the members in that genre as well. And then just a list of music genres that I think could work well as horror music. And these are either the genre has a lot of horror imagery or the music is spooky and or has a lot of horror lyricism in it, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, we just have we're just gonna end the episode.
Really?
No, I'm just kidding.
I was gonna say,
No.
the fuck?
But yeah, we're gonna talk about some fun music genres, and for each genre, if it's one I'm not familiar with, I did attempt to find a notable artist and listen to at least one album, and then I gave it a ranking on spookiness and then just general enjoyment of listening.
Okay.
So yeah, this is the most fun I've had during research.
I bet.
So the first one, we're gonna talk about the big four. We have horror punk, horrorcore, terrorcore, and dark ambient. So we're going to talk a little bit more in depth of the first two because they have the most ties to horror. Terrorcore is just interesting because of the name and the style of terror that it portrays, I guess. And dark ambient is the closest you can get to being a horror movie score without being labeled film score, which is interesting.
Yeah.
It's all sound design, basically. It's barely music, but it is cool stuff.
Okay.
So we got horror punk. So pioneered by the Misfits, horror punk, to me, it almost seemed inevitable.
Oh, yeah.
So the beginnings of horror punk. In 1950s, the rock and roll singer Screamin' Jay Hawkins, I don't know if you've heard that name before.
No.
He has a song called I Put a Spell on You, which is considered one of the first, shock rock type of songs.
Okay.
I swear I've seen, old footage of him performing this song with, face paint and, makeup, maybe. This could be a false memory, but I swear I remember seeing it. But it's one of the first, if not the first, shock rock songs. It has a lot of lyrics that reference, voodoo and witchcraft, and of course, with the name, I Put a Spell on You.
Whoa.
Yeah. And there's also, during the same time, in the 50s and 60s, there was a genre called teenage tragedy songs, which appeared to be ballads about teenagers being killed or something.
Not even, Romeo and Juliet type shit? Like,
I don't know. I've
being
never heard of
killed?
this before.
Yeah.
It's just all about teenagers dying, I guess. I don't know.
Okay.
But, like, a bunch of elements were then brought into the 70s with bands like Black Sabbath and Alice Cooper, which popularized the fusion of horror and metal/rock music, which is also where we get horror punk, which also mixes your classic 70s and 80s punk with some rockabilly and some like doo-wop, which it sounds weird,
very,
but it's not. I feel like what they get with like the doo-wop and stuff is a lot of this horror punk that I've heard, especially from the Misfits. It has a lot of like melodic like choir like chorus singing where you have the whole band just like whoa, like that kind of stuff. Like there's a lot of like harmony in it, and I think that's where they get like doo-wop type like mixed in there. I don't know.
Interesting.
Because I listened to the Misfits, one of the Misfits albums, and a couple other like horror punk just in general, and I don't know where they're getting like doo-wop. I hear the rockabilly influence definitely, but not doo-wop.
Yeah, because doo-wop, I don't know if you could make horror doo-wop. If you can, major props.
This genre is probably the most positive out of all the genres we're going to talk about.
Okay.
This
like as in subject matter or as in sound or both?
Sound mostly.
Okay.
Horror punk is just fun. Like a lot, like, so when we're going to talk about horrorcore after this.
Uh-huh.
Horrorcore sounds like people trying to make horror. You know what I mean? Like they're trying to make something that's supposed to spook you and stuff. Horror punk just sounds like a bunch of people being like, we fucking love horror. Let's just sing about how much we love horror.
Okay.
Like it's very like celebratory almost.
Okay, so it's not supposed to scare you, it's supposed to celebrate horror.
Pretty much. That's what I got out of it.
Okay.
Especially since a lot of this stuff, especially with the Misfits, like the Misfits especially, they love like sci-fi B movies and stuff.
Oh fuck yeah.
So like it's a lot sillier and like it's less like spooky.
You think as a fan of sci-fi I'd be more of a fan of the Misfits?
I mean, you might like some of their later stuff. What I showed you isn't all they've done.
Fair.
And it's not like their whole sound. Like their second album or their album after the one that I showed you is like way harder. It's more hardcore.
Okay, I might like that then.
You might. So some other notable names in horror punk: AFI, Son of Sam, and the Murder Dolls are three of the big ones that I found.
The Murder Dolls, that's
I
great.
know. So I do want to just give a quick brief about the Misfits and how they started, since they pretty much pioneered the genre. There were other bands that were kind of flirting with it, but the Misfits like are the main ones that took it all the way and had massive success. So in 1976, Glenn Danzig formed the Misfits after being in a few less successful bands, and apparently he came up with the name after the final Marilyn Monroe film.
Oh.
They played their first 2 shows at a New York punk club called CBGB, and they realized that their name was extremely accurate. They weren't just misfits in common society. They were misfits to the punks too, especially in the New York scene. At that time, a lot of the New York punk scene was just full of drugs, a lot of like heroin and stuff like that. And the Misfits were not about that at all. But what they did love, like I said, was horror movies and B movies. So they just decided, let's do that instead. And what was it? In 1979, they released a single called Horror Business. And that's when they first used that the famous skull logo, which actually comes from a 1940s obscure horror movie called The Crimson Ghost.
Interesting. Okay.
And that's also when they started doing face paint. They started painting like skeletons, bones on their like outfits and stuff. And that's also when they did like they had what they call the devil lock hair and stuff, which seems to be like the big mohawk, but it comes like down to here basically. There's like a long strand.
Oh God, I can't stand that hairstyle.
Well, you can thank the Misfits for having that around.
Oh, bro, I love punk. I love mohawks, but that one in particular can just stop existing.
I saw a funny interview where someone was asked him like, "Is it difficult to eat with that?" And he's like, "I can't have spaghetti."
I bet. No offense to anyone that has that out there. That's just my personal taste.
Yeah.
I don't give a shit if you like that. If you like it, do it. Just do it.
Another fun fact about them is they were thrown in jail in England during a tour after getting a fight with some skinheads.
What?
Yeah. And they also they made a whole song about it called London Dungeon.
Like those kind of skinheads?
Yeah.
Good. I mean, not good that they got caught. They should have just gotten away with it.
Yeah. So the album I looked at was their 1982 album called Walk Among Us. It's their first full-length album release. They do have one before this called Static Age, but I think that's more of like an EP than like a full album.
Okay.
So I have some notable songs for these. Nike A Go-Go is just very catchy, in my opinion. Hate Breeders is the longest song out of there. It's 3 minutes long, like almost 3 minutes exact. It's also just, again, another fun, catchy song. Mommy, Can I Go Out and Kill Tonight? They only had the live version. This isn't on Spotify, so I had to listen to it on YouTube.
Aww.
And they only had the live version on the album. But that's a very fun one, too.
With a name like that, I can't imagine it wouldn't be.
And we also have Violent World, Devil's Whorehouse, and Astro Zombies.
I want to work at the Devil's Whorehouse.
Seems like a fun place.
Seems great. That sounds great.
This album was just a lot of fun. I showed you one of the songs and you weren't a big fan of it. I had a lot of fun with this. As someone who really likes punk, I don't know. This hit really good. It's not a horror album, I'll tell you that right now. Like, there's nothing spooky about any of this music. It doesn't sound overly spooky. There's nothing in the production. It's just melodic punk music that's about horror.
Yeah, okay.
It's just all it is. And it's a fun time. I don't know what to tell you.
Hey, if you like it, you like it. I ain't gonna yuck your yum dog.
Here's a fun little drinking game. Take a shot every time the band sings "Whoa," and you will not forget you will not remember the day after you wake up. Like, you're gonna be like, did yesterday even happen? What happened?
I remember the day before yesterday.
Yeah, I could tell you what I had for breakfast the day before yesterday. I don't think yesterday happened.
I think I got abducted by aliens.
It's it's so much. Like, every song has like at least the pre-chorus or something. They're just whoa. It's so funny. 2 out of 10 on the spookiness, but a 7 out of 10 for the listen. It's a fun listen if you like punk music. Also, Dave Brockie, the former frontman for the band Gwar, rest in peace.
Oh shit.
He said it's a perfect album.
Wow.
I personally don't agree, but I could understand someone having that opinion, especially someone like him.
Yeah,
I mean, look at the band he's in.
Yeah, that's right in his wheelhouse.
Yeah. And then we also have horrorcore. So horrorcore is a subgenre of hardcore rap that focuses mainly on storytelling lyrics, often about murder, cannibalism, human sacrifice, satanic worship, occultism in general, horror movies, and any other dark, spooky topics you can think of. The instrumentals are usually, but not always, darker and harder, and they sometimes will use horror movie samples. And horrorcore has a weird history, because for a while, it's really just kind of like, and even still to this day, it's mostly a genre that people experiment with rather than devote an entire career to doing.
Okay.
And in the 80s is where it kind of began. The first horrorcore song is debated, but people agree that the song The Adventures of Super Rhymes by Jimmy Spicer in 1980, it brings the first elements of horrorcore. The song is 16 minutes long.
Oh my god.
And there's a whole section where he raps about meeting Dracula.
That's awesome.
And that's where, like, the horrorcore part comes in.
Okay. So what, sonically, like, just sound-wise, what would I expect to hear from a horrorcore song?
That is dependent on the artist, mainly.
Okay.
The artist that I listen to, his name is Isham, and his is a lot, well, at least the album that I listen to, it's a lot more, like, old school sounding.
Okay.
But
like
you...
old school rock, old school
No,
metal?
like old school rap.
Oh.
This is rap.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a rap genre.
Okay.
So, like, it's... Sonically, you can get a lot of different types of, like, beats and stuff.
Uh-huh.
Sometimes it can be, like, a more straightforward, like, rap beat, but then the lyrics are horrorcore because they're just very dramatized storytelling horror stories, basically. That's what horrorcore is.
Yeah.
That's what makes a horrorcore song. It's less about the music and more about the lyrics.
You showed me a little bit of this.
Yes, a little bit.
Okay.
But horrorcore is also, like, it's so varied because of the way, like, the genre. Like I said, it's a lyric genre, not like a music genre.
Right.
But here's a very fun fact. In 1988, guess who released one of the first horrorcore songs? Not the first, but one of the first. I'll give you 3 guesses. And I'll give you a hint with each guess. Here's the first hint. Primarily known as an actor.
Jim Carrey.
No. Here's the second hint. Here's a double hint, actually. Primarily known for comedy and is not white.
Chris Rock.
You're close. You're a lot closer. Here's the third hint. This person has been associated with Chris Rock recently due to an issue.
Will Smith.
Will Smith.
What?
Will Smith. In 1988, DJ Jazzy Jeff and Will Smith released Nightmare on My Street, which is a rap song where Will Smith raps about meeting Freddy Krueger.
What? That's awesome.
And then in the same year, the Fat Boys recorded Are You Ready for Freddy, which was used for Nightmare on Elm Street 4.
It was actually in the movie?
I think it was used, like, for promotional material, yeah.
That's so awesome.
Maybe even in the movie. Around the same time as this, a group called the Ghetto Boys released a song called Assassins. The instrumental and the vocal deliveries aren't exactly horror, but the lyrics and storytelling get pretty gruesome with lines like, quote, "Whipped out the machete, she screamed I sliced her up until her guts looked like spaghetti." So, that's also cool.
No, that's great.
What's interesting about horrorcore is that it seemingly started off fun and innocent, and then it quickly gets way more dark and extremely controversial at points.
Oh, I bet.
Some notable artists I have in here. Gangsta NIP is often attributed to being the creator of horrorcore, although he called it psycho rap, which sounds awesome.
That sounds so sick.
And he also helped with writing some of the early Ghetto Boys songs, which they are also attributed to being, like, progenitors of horrorcore, kind of.
Okay.
Isham is the artist that I checked out because of his influence. He released an album in 1989 called Boomin' Words from Hell. And
I saw you listening to a lot of that on
Spotify, yeah.
Yeah.
He released that album at the age of 16.
You told me. That's fucking insane.
And what's even crazier is this motherfucker influenced Eminem and Insane Clown Posse.
You told me about Eminem, but not ICP.
Yeah, ICP was very heavily influenced by this guy.
Wow.
And then ICP is the other notable artist. This is, I think, if you want to talk about horrorcore, I think ICP is the biggest horrorcore artist that is strictly horrorcore.
Okay.
They are probably the biggest ones to do it. And that's partially because of the culture that they have, like, shaped for themselves around, like, juggalos and stuff. I don't like ICP personally. I have nothing against juggalos.
Yeah.
I've heard, like, I haven't met any juggalos personally, but I have heard of people who talked about growing up around juggalos, and apparently they're very nice people.
I have a fun fact for you.
What's up?
I lost my virginity to a juggalo.
Oh my god, that's... What?
Yeah, my first girlfriend was a juggalo.
I think you actually told me about this and I forgot. Oh my god, that's crazy.
And then the second person I did the deed with was also a juggalo.
Oh my god.
And that was not by choice. I don't have a type for juggalos. And that's just how the universe decided my life was supposed to unfold, I guess.
That's awesome. The other one, so we have two other ones. Gravediggers is a rap group consisting of RZA, Prince Paul, Fruquan, I think, is how it's pronounced.
Let me see the
Poetic.
words. That's how I would say that, Fruquan.
Their album 6 Feet Deep is one of the best-selling horrorcore albums of all time, and I was very close to listening to it, but I instead went with Esham.
Esham. That's such a fun word to say, Esham.
It is. And we also have Insane Poetry, which is apparently a pretty rare West Coast horrorcore artist. They have a 92 album called Grim Reality, which uses horrorcore themes for social commentary, which is pretty similar to Esham. He definitely does that too.
Okay.
Horrorcore was pretty popular in the 90s to the point of controversy and being blamed for violent acts such as school shootings and murders in general, especially with younger people.
Of course.
I think these claims are obviously pretty stupid. It usually ends up being like one of those, like, they just found out someone who did something bad listens to a certain genre of music, maybe, and then made the correlation. Like, that's all there is.
It's always it was the blank music.
Yeah. Horrorcore was pretty big in the 90s and then started to die down in the 2000s, and then by the 2010s, the genre has pretty much died down significantly. There's even a quote online where someone said, the only time horrorcore isn't a bad word is when it's the fans of horrorcore.
Yeah.
I think part of the issue is a rise of artists trying to emulate the horrorcore style, but then just coming off as corny. They're trying to do too much, or they're just not trying to do enough.
Yeah.
I personally think horrorcore can make a comeback if we mix it with another genre, which we'll talk about a little later. But yeah, it is already starting to bubble up a little bit with a couple of some smaller artists trying to bring it back with some of their own flair to it, which I think is exciting.
Oh, that's cool.
So let's talk about Boomin' Words from Hell.
Yeah, I saw that album name on there and I was like, dude, that's one of the best album names I've ever fucking heard.
It's so good. It's so good. Also, real quick, this showed me a little something about horrorcore, and that's a difference. There's two different types of horrorcore I find. You have this type of horrorcore, which is more, it's more realistic. Mm-hmm. It's more about, like, this is real life, and it ends up just being, like, dramatized real life storytelling. So, like, Esham, for example, in this album talks about, like, selling drugs and killing people, but in a very dramatic and, like, horrifying way. It becomes a little too real in some cases.
Yeah.
And then we got, like, the fantasy horrorcore, which is where we get stuff like one of my favorite horrorcore songs, Pinocchio by Tech Nine, which is, like, it's a song about this guy who is a cannibal and he eats women, and he has a date with a woman, and he really wants to, like, have a good date, and even, like, he talks about wanting to marry this woman because she's amazing and stuff, but he just cannot resist his cannibalistic urges, and while performing the oral sex, he decides to just eat her.
Completely.
Yes.
That song?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
I've heard you listen to that. Okay.
I love that song. But yeah, that's the two types of horrorcore you get. You get, like, the kind of fantasy and then the real. And I feel like real horrorcore is maybe a little more like that's where we get more of the controversy.
Okay.
Because like I said, this is like real life being dramatized pretty much.
Right.
So some notable songs from this is Esham's Boomin', which is a good song. My 9 Rhymes, where he says, and I quote, "Told my teacher I want to grow up and be like Hitler."
Yeah, what the fuck is up with that? Because I think you showed me that line, and I'm like, what the fuck?
It's just in the song. Like, this song is just like, it's one of the shorter songs. A lot of the songs on this album is pretty long.
Uh-huh.
They're like 3 to 4 minutes long. But like, it's kind of almost similar to the song 7 Years by Lucas Graham in a way, which is a really shitty pop ballad song about this guy just singing about growing up. It's literally the same thing as this. He just talks about like, you know, when he was this many years old, when he was this year, like, and that's just one of the lines. Like,
Mama told me when I was
that's the song.
years old. Okay. Okay, yeah.
But like that's literally this song, just in horrorcore form.
Oh.
And that's just one of the lines. I think it's like when he was 7 or 9 or something, he tells his teacher that or something.
So you think it's just kind of shock value thing?
It's just at this point I think this is just shock value. I feel like that's kind of like a lot of his music is he has that, but like he's such a good lyricist, honestly, that like he makes it work. Yeah. Like it's just he tells such a vivid story with his lyrics.
Well, after Kanye went the way of the swastika, it's you know, you hear a rap lyricist say a line like that, you gotta sit back and be like, okay, is this shock value or is this real? Because apparently that's a possibility now.
I think it is just shock value. I don't think he has any actual wantings to be like Hitler. Okay. But obviously I don't know.
Yeah, fair. We're hoping not.
Yeah. We also got Devil's Groove, which has a sound in it that sounds like Friday the 13th.
Oh, like the main theme?
The specifically the
oh, classic, of course.
Yeah. Okay. Like it sounds like that is in this song. I don't think it actually is, but it's very similar.
It's like an interpolation, if you
will. I don't know. Like I have no idea, but it's very similar and it caught my attention.
Yeah, I bet.
Red Rum is very fucking catchy.
Oh, he's got a song Red Rum. That's awesome.
It's very catchy, especially that hook. Some Old Wicked Shit, just a good song. Amen, Another Sin has a fantastic spooky beat. Ooh. Like a really good, like spooky old school beat. And then we also have Devils in the Soup, which is, and I shit you not, a song that is simultaneously about female masturbation and cooking drugs.
Wow, what a combination of subject matter.
Specifically, female masturbation from a virgin who has never experienced any kind of, like, sex before.
So, all very specific.
It is. And he does it. And, like, it makes sense. And it goes back and forth seamlessly. Like, in the very beginning of the song, I'm like, oh, okay, like, this is about someone, like, this is about a woman pleasing herself. And then he starts, like, going, like, a little bit more, and I'm like, wait. No, he's talking about drugs. And then he goes again, and I was like, no, he's talking about female masturbation. Like, he goes back and forth so seamlessly. It's great. Wow. This album is not entirely horrorcore. There are other songs I don't consider Devils in the Soup to be horrorcore. Mm-hmm. Devil, but like I don't feel like it's in a horror way. Right. The beats aren't all dark and spooky. Amen, Another Sin is really good though, and it is very dark and spooky. I would also say Devil's Groove has a pretty dark beat. But like the lyrical content is just like I said, just amazing. He's a really good storyteller with his lyrics. But yeah, it's a very interesting album. I will say it's really good. There is a couple of songs in there that is a little maybe problematic.
Yeah.
There's some misogyny in there. It's like some pretty bad misogyny for a couple of songs.
Yeah.
But outside of that, though, I think it's really good. Like I said, Red Rum is a really catchy song. Another Amen, Another Sin is a great like song as well. There's definitely some songs in here that I'm going to pick out and probably listen to more. But yeah, like for this to be a 16-year-old in 1989, this album is fucking insane.
Yeah, that's crazy impressive.
It's so impressive. Like, production value is great. The lyrics are like I said, he's a great lyricist. He's got amazing flows. I can easily hear the Eminem influence in here, like Eminem being influenced by this guy, especially with some of his beat choices and stuff. Like, and also another thing too, like, I'm usually not a big fan of like old school hip hop beats usually. Like, obviously some of them I really like, but like these ones are all fire. Like, they're really good. And I really enjoyed it. 5 out of 10 for the spookiness, I'll give this one. 7 out of 10 again for the listen.
Wow, okay.
I definitely enjoyed it.